Intervals is the distance between any two notes, and we measure them depending on numbers and also the quality of the interval. So for example, if you have any major scale, we're going to work with major scales because it's always much easier to work with major scales when you're doing this, but that does not mean that you cannot work with minor scales. So for a major scale, for example, let me just take a D. D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then D. So this will be your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and this will be your octave. So if you say, for example, the distance between D and G, now when we are measuring using numbers, then we can call this a fourth. We can say that the interval is now a fourth. So for the quality, you check the interval using the tones and semitones, but then for a major scale, you can just take the first, which is unison, the fourth, the fifth, and the octave. All of them, call them perfect intervals. All right, call all of those perfect intervals. And then you take the second, the third, the sixth, and the seventh. Call all of these major. All right, call all those intervals major interval. All right. Okay, I'm just going to leave it as major. So for example, now if I am dealing with D to G, I am going to find where my fourth is and is it perfect. So this one will be a perfect fourth. I'll start with the quality first. So I'll say perfect fourth. It is as simple as that. All right, so these perfects, all right, when I have them like that, if I sharpen any of them, like I take this G and I put it as a G sharp instead of the way it was, okay, now it stops being a perfect and it becomes augmented. When I sharpen it, it will now be called augmented. If I take this major and I sharpen it, also we are going to call it augmented. If I lower it, when we talk of lowering, you know that we are flattening, then we are going to call it a diminished. So if I was moving from D to G, but then I take my G and I lower it, it becomes a flat, then I will call it diminished fourth. I'll call it a diminished fourth. Okay, if I take my major and I lower it, then it will be called a minor interval. But again, the major can again be lowered twice and be called a diminished. You can lower it 2 times and you call it a diminished. For example, what do I mean when I say you can lower it 2 times? If I have E, okay, and I'm moving to G, all right, from E to G, let me just make it flat. We all know that in the scale of E, I would be E, F, G. Let me just reach there because this will be your first, your second, and your third. If I put my key signatures, then my major would be a G sharp. But if I put this G to be flat, like I have done here, then I have lowered it twice. I have taken it to minor and then I have lowered it again to a G flat. So now this one makes the interval of E to G flat to be a diminished minor. A diminished third. So yeah, that's it about intervals.